Whether you're celebrating Canada Day this weekend or Independence Day this weekend, let's get you set for a terrific holiday weekend with some hockey talk. Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to another edition of Habs Hockey Report right here on the All Habs Hockey Magazine YouTube channel. We're part of Rocket Sports Media, and so glad that you're back with us again today. As I said, if you're celebrating Canada Day or Independence Day this weekend, have a wonderful long weekend. We hope that you have something very fun planned, some relaxation, maybe some good things to eat. And hey, if you're rocking any Habs gear for your holiday weekend, be sure to submit those either in the comments or on social media using hashtag #ShowYourHabs, and we'll be glad to feature those on next week's show, showing everyone celebrating their long weekend rocking out like a true Habs fan. We have a great show for you today. If you're a new viewer, or maybe you just haven't decided whether or not this is the time to hit that subscribe button, why not do it now? We are going to be here with you through the draft next week and through every week of this summer, bringing you all the latest Habs hockey news, prospects, things going on with the Canadiens. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell. We don't ever want you to miss an episode. We have a tremendous show on tap for you today. We've got some Habs news to talk about. We've got some prospect news to talk about. We've got some great fan comments to bring to you and talk to you about. In fact, wanted to make mention, we do the All Habs roll call. If you're a newer viewer, we always love to hear where you're watching from. And so you can leave that in the comments section down below. Just want to share a great comment we had last week from Ellen, who's writing in from St. John's, Newfoundland. Says, I happened to come across your YouTube channel and I do listen to you on Twitter. I've been a Habs fan since I was 15. Now I'm 45. My dad, who is 70, and all 7 members of my family are Habs fans. Your channel is my go-to to find out all the current news about our beloved team, and my dad, who is 70, is so excited about the new direction of the Habs. Imagine that. Thank you for all of your great work. I'll certainly keep your channel and tell all my family and friends about you. Cheers. Cheers to you, Ellen. Thanks so much. We're so happy to have you and your entire family, including your dad, on board, cheering for the Habs and watching our channel each and every week to bring you all the greatest Habs news. So welcome aboard. Welcome to all the rest of you as well. Again, if this is if you're new to the channel, drop us a comment below. Let us know where you're watching from. For now, let's get started. We've got a great feedback forum question to ask you in the first segment, so let's get right to it. Definitely some Habs happenings to discuss this week. The big news that happened this week is that there's going to be an assistant coaching position open behind the bench for the Montreal Canadiens now this summer, because Luke Richardson, we mentioned last week that he had been going through some interviews with the Chicago Blackhawks for that head coaching position, and sure enough, he won the job. So Luke Richardson becoming the 40th head coach for the Chicago Blackhawks, moving to another Original Six team. Congratulations, first of all, to Luke Richardson, a stand-up guy, a tremendous coach. We've heard his defensemen and players on the Canadiens talk in recent years about what a great coach he is and how hard they want to work for him. So Chicago definitely got a good one there. In fact, even in his first lengthy interview with Mark Lazarus from the Athletic that just came out this week, Lazarus was asking Richardson a little bit about, what he believes kind of his first impressions of his strategy for coaching the Blackhawks. And Luke Richardson went into extensive detail on, particularly from a defensive standpoint, the things that need to probably be implemented. And Mark Lazarus replied with, wow, this is the NHL. We usually don't talk about X's and O's here. And Richardson coyly replied, I didn't say X and I didn't say O. I think Lazarus and the other reporters there were a little surprised to see that level of detail coming from their head coach, and that's what Chicago Blackhawks fans can expect from Luke Richardson. He's very detail-oriented, and he certainly is very hockey intelligent and very smart about the game. So it'll be fun to watch Luke Richardson's journey getting a head coaching position with Chicago. However, now that leaves a gaping hole on the Habs bench. Luke Richardson, of the coaches that were behind the bench to end the season for the Montreal Canadiens, Luke Richardson had the most experience. And so with a head coach who has literally about 37 games of pro coaching experience, as well as Alex Burrows, who is not really that far out of his playing career, so doesn't also have a ton of experience at the assistant coaching position. They're missing experience. So now it's going to be interesting to see where the influences for who to fill that position come from. Is it going to be someone that St. Louis wants to bring in that he's familiar with? Is Kent Hughes or Jeff Gorton going to step in a little more and guide the ship kind of towards someone who will bring that experience behind the bench? Or will they promote someone from the Laval coaching staff? JF Ull did a tremendous job this season, along with his assistants, Martin Laperriere and Kelly Buchberger. So could one of those be promoted? It will be an interesting story to watch unfold. They'll want to get that hiring done in the next few weeks, likely, so that the coaches can start to work together to make a plan for the fall. But who that's going to be? Is it going to be a well-known name? Is it going to be someone from the AHL? Is it going to be someone kind of thinking outside the box again, as the Canadiens have been doing quite often this year with their hirings? We just have to wait and see. But you can guarantee that we're going to keep an eye on it and that we will bring you all the latest when that news drops. 1 week warning alert. We are a week away from the NHL Entry Draft. Can you believe it? It's almost here, and Montreal, the city of Montreal, is really starting to buzz as fans are really getting excited about that first overall pick. We are not here today to debate whether it's going to be Shane Wright, Juraj Slafkovsky, or Logan Cooley. We'll leave that to social media because that is, every person coming out of every corner has an opinion about whether it's going to be Wright or Slafkovsky, which is who it seems to be. It was kind of a 3-guy race, and now it seems to be between those two as to who the Habs are going to take. You're welcome to leave your comments down below as to who you think it will be or should be. What we're here to say today is we're just excited that the draft is almost here. This is, getting to see the next generation of hockey stars get drafted and enter their organizations, not just for the Habs, but for every hockey team, is always so much fun to watch. There's been years and years of work and commitment and sacrifice by these young men and their families. And so to watch that dream come true, to start their hockey career once they're 18 is just something incredible to watch. You can count on Rocket Sports Media and all of us here at All Habs to bring you great draft coverage. In fact, next week on the show, you're going to have to tune in next week for this show at Habs Hockey Report. I'll have information on a special edition of Habs Hockey Report that's going to come out next week. Since we typically publish on Thursdays and the draft doesn't start until Thursday night, we will have a show next week, but then we'll have special information about a special episode that you're not going to want to miss out on. In the interim, during the draft, be sure you're following at All Habs on Twitter or Facebook, and also keep an eye on our website, allhabs.net. We'll have a live draft tracker going on for the first round and for the Habs picks throughout rounds 2 through 7 at allhabs.net. You will want to just kind of keep that tab open and refresh it. It will keep being updated as the draft progresses. On social media, Twitter, Facebook, we will have extensive infographics on each Habs draft pick as soon as they are picked and as soon as they are selected, bringing you all of the best information and the basic information that you need about each of those picks, particularly, which is very helpful once you start to get into the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds, maybe some guys that you're not as familiar with. We'll have all of the information on each of these picks as they happen, so be sure you're following at AllHabs on Twitter and Facebook for that. We'll also have some live look-ins from the draft because, as is always the case, we will have Rocket Sports Media team members live on site inside the Bell Center, and so we will have some live reactions and video and look-ins of what's going on at the draft. So it's a very exciting time. We can't wait to bring you along for the ride, and we certainly hope that you keep it locked on All Habs and here at Habs Hockey Report for all the latest. One other thing really that happened this week was the Stanley Cup was awarded, and no, it wasn't the Montreal Canadiens, obviously. So why is this in the Habs Happening section? Well, we have to take our a little tip of the hat and a stick tap to Artturi Lehkonen. Artturi Lehkonen just really came into his own when he was traded to the Colorado Avalanche at the trade deadline, on deadline 10 minutes before the deadline expired. And Colorado obviously knew what scenario he needed to be put in to help him be successful because the transition was almost instantaneous. Artturi Lehkonen, whether you're watching or whether you're listening to comments from his teammates and coaches, just had a tremendous second half of his season and not only scored the goal to send Colorado to the Stanley Cup final, that's the second year in a row that he's done that for the team he was playing for, but he also scored the Cup winning goal. I talk about coming up clutch. Artturi Lehkonen, it was a joy to see him lifting the Stanley Cup. His dad and family was there enjoying it with him as well. So congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche, and a special congratulations to Artturi Lehkonen, which leads us to this week's feedback forum question. Here's a fun one for you. We heard Nathan McKinnon asked on the ice, what's the one thing that you really want to do with the Stanley Cup when you have it? And he said, the one thing I really want to do with the Stanley Cup is take a picture of it with my dad. Which was a really touching thing to say, and it made me think, okay, well, let's ask all of you, what would be the thing that you want to do with Lord Stanley if you had your day with the cup? Now, remember, keep this clean. There are a lot of kids that follow our channel. We're not looking for anything crazy, but sincerely, what would make a day with the Stanley Cup special for you? Is there a place that you'd want to go to take pictures, like some place that's memorable for you? Are there certain family members that you would want to share it with, or maybe your own hockey team, local community hockey team or something like that? I'm just curious to know, what would you do on your day with the Stanley Cup? So leave those comments down below. Can't wait to read those next week. I bet there's going to be some pretty fun ones in there. So let us know. We'll read them next week. Well, sure enough, it did not take the Laval Rocket much downtime before they got back to work this summer. It's only been about a couple of weeks since their season came to an end. And after a quiet week last week, as I'm sure they kind of decompressed and recuperated a bit, they got back to work, and their first signings of the summer were actually announced this past week. A little actually curious as to the signings that they had. Keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of, this year, Laval was exceptionally light on prospects, which is really not what you want for your AHL affiliate. The AHL affiliate is there primarily to develop prospects to be graduated to the NHL, to keep that pipeline of prospects and new talent continually cycling up through your NHL club. So there weren't a ton of prospects this year on the Laval roster, which was a little disappointing to see. However, this next season and the season after that, we expect a big crop of prospects to start coming through the Laval locker room. So that means that there's going to be more of the development side of things that should be taking place with more prospects on the team. So we might not see as many free agency signings, let's say, happening this summer. So it's interesting, the signings that did take place. to our reaction would be signings that probably you would wait until late August or early September, because maybe they're not the most important. But needless to say, they had 5 signings this week. All of them AHL contracts. None of them are NHL contracts. They are all AHL contracts. 2 of them are AHL one-way contracts for 1 year. And AHL contracts, whether they're one-way or two-way, work the same way as NHL one-way and two-way contracts, meaning a 1-year one-way AHL contract means that it's probably expected that that player is going to spend the bulk of the season with Laval. But if they do get sent down to the ECHL playing for Trois Rivières, they would still be paid the same salary that they're making in the AHL. Whereas in AHL two-way contract means that it's more likely that those players will probably spend the bulk of the season in the ECHL, making a smaller ECHL salary. And then if they get called up to fill in at times because of injuries or call-ups at the AHL level, then they'll make a slightly larger AHL salary. So it's like the NHL contracts. AHL one-way and two-way contracts are basically just a differentiation of how the players are paid. That's my lesson for today. So who are the contracts? Well, there's 2 1-year, one-way contracts. That's Peter Abbandonato, who was a forward for them this year, as well as defenseman Tori Dello. 2 guys, neither one of them are Habs prospects, but Abbandonato ended up, he spent some time in the ECHL this year, but JF Uhl came to rely on him a bit towards the end, towards the stretch run and into the playoffs a little bit. So obviously they liked what they saw, they liked what he brought, and so signed him to a 1-year AHL contract, as well as Tori Dello, who was one of the regulars on the back end for Laval this season. With the return of Captain Xavier Ouellet very much up in the air. He even stated in his exit interview that he would like to try to get back to the NHL next year if he can. So it's not a guarantee that the captain's going to be back, and perhaps Tori Dello is simply a veteran signing as for some stability for a lot of young prospects on the blue line that are going to be coming in next year. The other 3 contracts are all 1-year, two-way contracts for Laval, so you can expect most of these guys to spend a good portion of the season in the ECHL playing for Trois Rivières, but you might see them come up every once in a while to fill in, and that is 2 defensemen. You've got Olivier Galipeau and Santino Santarame. Olivier Galipeau, you'll recognize that name from his occasional appearances with Laval this year, as well as forward Anthony Beauregard, who played in the ECHL 2 seasons ago. At the end of that season, earned an ATO, an amateur tryout with, a PTO with Laval. And was there for a very short period of time, then went and played in Switzerland last year. So apparently he's now back and probably going to play most of the season with Trois Rivières. But those are the 5 who Laval signed. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We'll keep an eye on all of those signings, particularly any veteran signings, and more importantly, guys who were on this year's team who sign elsewhere, meaning that they won't be returning, because that will be an indicator of how the fall roster will shape up. In addition to Laval, we also like to touch on Habs prospects in this segment, and just want to give credit where credit is due to the young Habs prospects who battled to the bitter end in the Memorial Cup championship run this year. Hamilton, the Bulldogs, with Jan Mysak and Arber Xhekaj, ended up eliminating the Edmonton Oil Kings and sending Caden Gooley and his teammates home early for the summer. And that advanced Hamilton then to that kind of semifinal game against the Shawinigan Cataracts. That game went to overtime, and it was Jan Mysak scoring the overtime game winner to send Hamilton to the Memorial Cup championship. Jan Mysak, it was his first goal of the playoffs, actually, but I mean, hey, if you're going to score 1 goal in the playoffs, make it count, right? So that put the Hamilton Bulldogs against the host team, the St. John Sea Dogs, and Hamilton did ultimately fall, did not win the Memorial Cup, but did make it to the final, losing in the final 6-3 to the Sea Dogs. So congratulations to all of the teams and Habs prospects prospects who made it so far in the Memorial Cup playoffs this year. And we can't wait to see what all of those fellas bring to training camp and rookie camp this summer, and even development camp. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. It is Habs Fan Hub time. You know what that means. This is the segment of the show where we get to listen to you and react and respond to the things you have to say as Habs fans, because you know what? Your voices should be heard as well. We actually have a question for the All Habs mailbag this week that I want to get to. Remember, if you have a question at all about the Canadiens, about hockey in general, about Laval, about the prospects, anything, you can anytime just drop a question in the comments below. We'll drop it into the All Habs mailbag and answer it on a future show. And today we have a question from Michael, who says, mailbag, should Montreal's 26th overall pick in the upcoming draft be dealt? Ooh. Interesting question. Of course, you know, all of the hype and the buzz is around the first overall pick that the Montreal Canadiens have. But don't forget, they have a second first-round pick falling at 26th. We actually discussed this on a recent episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. Rick Stevens and myself sitting down to chat with Sportsnet's own Sam Cosentino, draft analyst expert, let me tell you. And Sam had some thoughts about who Montreal could select, depending upon availability, at that 26th overall position. If you did miss that episode, be sure to head over to CanadiensConnection.fm and just go back, I believe, 2 episodes to take a look at that interview and listen to that interview with Sam Cosentino. To answer your question, Michael, should they deal this pick? I don't think so. They certainly aren't going to trade down for it. They have an early second round pick pretty soon after that. So if they trade it at all, it would be to move up slightly, depending, and that's going to be, I think, in the midst of the first round. If they see someone unexpected who is kind of on their list, but not someone that maybe they think is going to go earlier, and they see someone start falling that they think could be an asset, then you might see a last minute trade up to get that draftee. Otherwise, I think they stick with the 26th. As I said, they have an early second round pick, so they've also got, you know, some wiggle room there as well. But it's a good question and is certainly something to keep an eye on. Great question. And if anyone has any questions at all about the draft, Habs, Laval, just drop it down below. Happy to answer it. Remember this week's feedback forum question: if you had a day with Lord Stanley, what would be on your to-do list? Where would you take Lord Stanley? Where would you want pictures taken? Who would you want to take pictures with? Just want to hear, you know, use your imaginations for a minute, a little daydreaming if you had a day to celebrate with the Stanley Cup. Last week, however, we talked about how after the NHL awards, there was some back and forth as to whether, you know, Cole Caufield, of course, not winning the Calder Trophy, actually came in 6th in the standings as far as voting was concerned. And so the question for last week was, do you agree with where Caufield fell in the balloting? Or did you think that he should have been a bigger contender to win the Calder this year? And we had some really great responses. We have JM, who says, Caufield, great rookie, but doesn't need extra expectations. Hopefully is confident without the accolade. Make Gallagher captain, Suzuki and Anderson alternates, trade Price, Duran, and Petrie, draft. And actually, JM says that they should trade up for a higher place in the draft. So, Michael, that's JM answering your question a little bit there. He thinks they should trade up. So very great response from JM. The real Milton Bradley says, I love Caufield, but the fact he wasn't a Calder finalist is not a topic. So this is a complete non-issue for this person. I tend to agree. I mean, for me personally, you know, whether it was Dom Ducharme's fault or not, or if it was a Caufield issue for the first half of his season, the fact of the matter is Caufield had a not good first half of the season, and yes, he had a resurgence in the second half. But for me, to win the Calder Trophy, you have to show excellence for the better portion of the year. You know, I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but you need to show that you're worthy of a Calder for the better portion of your rookie season. Caufield didn't do that until there was a coaching change, and so I feel that where he fell was fair. That's not to say he didn't have a quite a remarkable end to his season, but I'd like to see consistency from him for an entire year. So hopefully that will be coming in the next season. We also have Lee Anderson saying, I'm okay with Caufield not being nominated for the Calder. Winning the Calder means more money. And that's an interesting answer. You know, cap issue is going to be something to definitely keep an eye on in this offseason. And while there's not necessarily, you know, there's not any contract, you know, and money implications for Caufield right now, if he won the Calder, would his value go up the next time they have to negotiate a contract for him? Well, that certainly could be the case, and who knows what the cap situation is going to be like at that point. So that's an interesting take on the question, and I like the creativity there. I like the thinking. Thank you, Lee. Michael says Caufield did not have a good start to the year. Unfortunately, his campaign for the Calder Cup ended when he was sent to Laval. Also a good point. Yeah, whether you agreed with it or not, the fact of the matter is Caufield was sent down to the AHL for a short while because they were looking for ways to kind of reignite his game and get him back to playing confidently. And you know, there's debate as to whether or not he could have stayed longer. And maybe because Ducharme was coaching in the NHL, maybe he would have been better off staying with JF Uhl for a little while longer in the AHL. But yes, Michael, you're absolutely right. The fact of the matter is he played in the AHL for a little while this year. He was sent down. And so, sure, you could certainly contest that a Calder Trophy winner is not someone who's going to be sent down necessarily to the AHL to try to fix their game during the year. So that's a good point as well. We also have a comment from Bobby who says, trade Petrie, Gallagher, and Duran and we're fine. Gally's the next Lucic. We don't need that anymore. And we've actually had a couple of comments. These are referring to our previous week's feedback forum question, which is who is your must keep and who is your must trade. So I agree with you there. Gallagher, I know he's a fan favorite, but he's certainly someone whose contract could be moved at this point based off of his production. And we also have a comment from Ellen saying, my first must trade is Hoffman and my must keep player is Petrie. I think Petrie is still our best veteran defenseman. I like Petrie, and as for him asking for a trade under Ducharme, I would have done the same thing. So that's a great comment, Ellen. Yeah, Ducharme was not the answer for the Montreal Canadiens. I think we can all I think that's a unanimous consensus at this point. Thank you all so much for your comments. I can't wait to read what you have to say about this week's question. We are officially now on the 1 week countdown to the draft. We can't wait to see you back here again next Thursday. In the meantime, did you know last week's episode was our most watched episode of Habs Hockey Report yet? If you missed it, check it out right here, and we'll see you next week.